What's up guys, Deal here from ProNDC. Welcome to another ESO build video. So today I want to show you the updated version of the Magicka Sorcerer PVE build for the Dragonbones DLC. People have been requesting a Magicka build quite a lot in the last few weeks. I'm sorry, I've been on vacation, so I wasn't really able to do some further testings, and I didn't want to release something that isn't finished or something that is not properly working. And I really wanted to record a DPS test where I use my actual raid setup. So as you've seen in the intro, I did a DPS test on the 6 mil skeleton. By the way, thanks a lot to Bloomer, the wonderful Bloomer, for helping me with bubbles and drain and blockade of storms to set the skeleton off balance. I decided to go with the 6 mil skeleton because there I can just use my regular double inferno raid setup that I use in trials. And the thing with 3 mil skeleton is, if you really want to do good damage, you want to a self-buffed good damage, you want to have a lightning staff on the back bar for the off-balance debuff, and you want to do a heavy attack at a certain point. Like when the skeleton is off balanced, a heavy attack will return twice the amount of magicka, which is really important because you will run out of resources on the 3 mil skeleton if you do not have bubble support and stuff like that. So I decided to do a test with the setup that I actually show you in the build video and that I actually use in trials. And people have been giving me some criticism in the past because I presented self-buff tests on the Max Sorc and used the lightning staff on the back bar, and they were like, why do you use lightning staff if you show it with Inferno staff? I kind of wanted to avoid that, so here it is, the build of the Max Sorc. We of course start with the stats first. So we have all the points into magicka. We are a high elf. You can be a dark elf. I recommend to be a vampire, to be honest, because the extra from the vampire passives, the extra recovery helps you with the sustain a little bit, especially if you're a dark elf. You do not feel the extra fire damage as much as on a high elf, of course, and the extra recovery from the vampire passives will compensate the lack of magicka recovery that you have compared to a high elf. So dark elf will give you the maximum DPS, but if you are a high elf, don't bother to race change. High elf is still extremely good, very close. It's a tiny bit of a difference. Don't bother to race change. So all points of the magicka, you can see my HP are low because we use Clockwork Citrusile. This is health, magicka, and magicka recovery, and of course some health recovery, which is totally not needed and totally wasted if you are a vampire, of course. We have the Apprentice Monostone, so 2.6k spell damage unbuffed, and that's pretty much it. So for the monster set, if you think the HP is too low, you have two choices. Either go with Narineth or go with Valkanscoria. Those two sets give you an HP bonus, so you sit at more than 16k, relatively close to 17k if I remember correctly. And yeah, those are the options if you want to play it a little bit safer. You lose a little bit of magicka, but you have more HP. You can also just put some attribute points into HP if you want to keep the monster set. It's up to you. I'm fine with this low amount of HP, so I picked Lambris as a monster set. This is your safer bet. If you have to play ranged, which usually you do as a Magicka Sorcerer, Lambris is just better because you get magicka and you have the chance to summon these meteor showers of either flame damage or lightning damage, which is pretty cool because Max Sorcs, they use both flame and lightning damage, so you can proc this a lot. But for maximum DPS, you want to use Zahn. The thing is, Zahn only procs in melee range, and then the beam breaks after you get out of range of a 10 meter radius, I think, if I remember correctly. So Zahn will be a little bit more DPS compared to Alambris, but you have to play melee ranged. Even in ranged fights, you can use Zahn if you do it correctly. So you move in, you proc the set, you move backwards a little bit, so you're not staying too close to the melee camp, and then you can still use Zahn. However, if you're not used to that, or moving constantly during a fight to proc that set on cooldown and not break the beam, I just recommend to go with Alambris. Especially on trash fights, Alambris outperforms Zahn by a ton. Just go with Alambris. And especially if you're on console and you don't have an add-on to switch your gear all the time, just play it safe and go with Alambris. The jewelry pieces also really easy to get. Here is willpower, all arcane, of course, all spell damage. If you still struggle a little bit with your sustain, you can put one recovery glyph here. Still also works. Some people will probably ask why do you not use Moondancer or Master Architect jewelry pieces? Isn't it better to have Minor Slayer? The thing is, willpower is a tiny bit better, really tiny bit better. It's not a lot, but it's just a tiny bit. If you, of course, have to use a Moondancer staff or a Master Architect staff or an Infallible Ether staff, then go with these jewelry pieces or with the matching jewelry pieces, not with willpower, of course. But that's a different story. I will get to that in a second. Willpower is really easy to get. You can just buy it in a guild store. It's really cheap. It's not it's less than 20k per piece. So just go to vendor and look for it. The 5-piece set that we use on the body is the crafted one, and here we use mechanical acuity. So in the groups where I run, we have really good Warhorn uptime. We have guard and stuff like that. So acuity outperforms Julianos on the non-pet Sorc, and acuity also outperforms Necropotence if you run with a pet. I decided to not go with a pet because I never really liked it, to be honest. I never really liked the pet, and yeah, it's just from what I've seen, people actually do more DPS now with without the pet, so that's actually pretty cool. If you are in a group where those Warhorn uptimes Major Force and Minor Force from guard are not as good, or if you are not able to use the trap yourself for Minor Force, you can just use the safe bet. Just go with Julianos. 5 pieces of Julianos. Do I have it here? I can just actually look it up. So Julianos gives you spell crit, Magicka spell crit, and then 300 spell damage. That's also pretty good. And acuity is relatively close with Magicka stamina, weapon spell damage, and when you deal damage, you have a 15% chance to gain basically 100% additional crit chance for 5 seconds, and then you have an 18-second cooldown. So the cooldown kicks in when the set bonus procs, so the cooldown is actually 13 seconds after the 5-second crit chance boost, and then you get an uptime between 27-28%. So that's really cool. Yeah, so acuity, willpower, Alambris or Zahn, and then we have a perfected Asylum Inferno staff with a flame damage glyph in infused. Yes, use infused on the front bar. I think that's pretty common to use infused. People should know that you want to run infused for maximum DPS. We use a flame damage glyph, of course, because it's just more damage. We used to run a shock damage glyph, and I think on the skeleton, a shock damage glyph can result in a little bit more damage. But as you can see, every second cast of force shock, doesn't matter which morph you use, either crushing shock or force pulse, always applies burning, concussion, and shield. So we have concussion already. We do not need a shock damage glyph. Flame damage will be more damage because of engulfing flames and stuff like that. So if you do not have a perfected staff, what you want to do is either get Moondancer or Master Architect like four pieces. You want to you might want to switch your skills a little bit, but I will get to that in a second when I talk about skills. Of course, if you have Julianos, you can also run with Infallible Ether. Spell crit, minor slayer, spell damage, and Moon Dancer instead is just like Magicka, minor slayer, and spell damage. Same goes for Master Architect. If you do not have Moon Dancer staves and also no jewelry pieces, you just run random staves and 3 pieces of willpower. That also works for the time being. Like I used to play like that or very similar to that in the past, and I still got really good damage. So yeah, people will probably be like, oh, perfected sound stuff, is he crazy? I cannot complete that. I've been saying that all the time in basically all my build videos. If Asylum Centaurium is the weekly trial, what you can do is just get into the weekly leaderboards with as many chars as possible. So just get all your characters in. And then if you are in the weekly leaderboards, you get a reward. And if you're lucky, you get a staff. I told you the alternative options if you do not have the staff. You can also use the non-perfected one, but I do not really recommend it, to be honest. Like, either go with the perfect one or go with Moon Dancer or a random staff. Though I'm pretty sure the non-perfect one is still better than a random staff anyway, so yeah. On the back bar, we have a Maelstrom Inferno staff and Infused. Please do not run Nirnhound. Also, please do not run poisons. There's been discussions if the double dot poisons actually properly stack, if multiple people use it in a trial, and like seems like they tend to override each other. It used to be like that in the past. I'm not sure if like there's a bug again where it happens. I never really checked the damage of the poisons again, but just don't run it. You miss so many spell damage, and especially so much. You miss so much spell damage, and you miss so much AoE damage that you do from not using the Berserker enchantment. If you play it correctly on the Sorg, you can still get like 60 to 70% uptime on the Berserker enchantment, and that's worth so much more than running a poison or running a Nirnhound. Because like, really, Nirnhound on the back bar, there's no point for the max sword to run Nirnhound on the back bar. I did that last patch for the build because I adjusted the build a little bit more towards dungeons, and there the execute phases are really short. However, with an infused Berserker damage, Berserker enchantment with spell damage, weapon damage enchantment, you can get the uptime really high. Especially in execute, it just basically procs on cooldown all the time. So that means you can have really high uptime. And yeah, that's basically it. Nirnhound is only really good if you have a single target damage over time effect, which we don't have. We use AoE damage over time effects, and the damage gets adjusted to the stats from the bar that you're currently on. So Maelstrom Inferno staff infused. Do not go with Nirnhound. And so double infused, flame damage here, berserker here, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's the gear. Let's hop into skills. So as I said, we have liquid lightning on the front bar currently because we have the Asylum Centaurium staff. The thing is, I will just basically show it to you on the little skelly here. You can see here on the right side here that the debuffs are active every second time that I use it. However, if I cast it one time and I cast it into bar swap, I do not get the debuffs. That's just like how the game mechanics work. That's not really a bug, but it's just like because you cast the skill into the bar swap, it basically counts as connecting with the Maelstrom staff. Even though you see the extra animation, yeah, you do not get the debuffs. That's kind of an issue. So basically the reason we have liquid lightning on the front bar is we swap bars because we want to recast blockade and liquid lightning. So you use, oh my god. Wow. People are probably used to having liquid lightning on the back bar alongside with blockade. So you casted liquid lightning and blockade, and then bar swapped. So what we do now is basically we cast liquid lightning into a bar swap, cast blockade, and then we continue doing our force pulse crystal fragment spam the whole time. That's the reason we have liquid lightning on the front bar, because if you do it like that, we never, or we do not bar swap cast force pulse as often as we would do if we had liquid lightning on the back bar. Because if you have liquid lightning on the back bar, what you actually have to do is always like count your force pulses all the time, so you do not miss or like waste the set bonus of the Asylum Staff. If you have a Moon Dancer Staff, it's up to you if you want to cast liquid lightning on the front bar or not. Basically you can just like, or what you could do is just like put either the Execute to the front or put Curse to the front. Like if you have a Moon Dancer Staff, like I'd probably go with this bar setup. But yeah, I'm not using Moon Dancer Staff because it's a little bit less DPS. So I just go with this bar setup. That's the only reason we have liquid lightning on the front bar. On top of that, no, it's not. It's actually not the only reason. We prioritize crystal fragments on the front bar. So even if your dots run out, still shoot the crystal fragments, then reapply liquid lightning and blockade of fire. Sorry. Anyway, to the skills. Force pulse. This is our main spammable. Activates the Sanctorum Staff. Then we have crystal fragments. We only use it when our hands glow, so they cost less and do more damage. Then with liquid lightning, AoE dot lasts 10 seconds when we have inner light for more Magicka. Bound Aegis, toggle ability, both bars for more Magicka. Then we have Shooting Star here. So I'm pretty sure people will debate a little bit. I think I had the best results with the Shooting Star on the front bar and then the Greater Storm Atro on the back bar. So the thing is, another Sork ability on the front bar will give you 2% more spell damage. Here I get 2% more Magicka. Depending on the boss fight, for example, I think like on Twins in VMO, you do not want to use the Greater Storm Atro because it might attack the wrong boss, especially if you have a color change. And on console, you still cannot command your pet, so you have to do a heavy attack, which is kind of an issue. So in certain fights, we do not use the Greater Storm Atro. We just go again with Elemental Rage. But in most fights, we go with the Storm Atro because an ally near the Atronac can activate the Charged Lightning Synergy, granting the ally and the Atronac Major Berserk, increasing their damage done by 25% for 8 seconds. That is huge. You've seen that in the entry DPS test, and it deals a ton of damage. And it outperformed, for me, it always outperformed Elemental Rage combined with Shooting Star. So yeah, on Trash, of course, you want to go with Elemental Rage. So what you can do is either go with, what you can do if you do not want to change your ultimates all the time is just put the Atro to the front, drop Meteor, and put Destro ult on the back bar. So like if you're on console and you would not want to switch your skills all the time, just play like that. However, like I said, I had the best results with Meteor front, Atro back, and that's pretty much it. So again, Bound Aegis on the back bar. Now we have a flexible spot here. As you can see, I don't have a shield. If you get guarded all the time, you do not need Remark Trap. There's fights where you do not need a shield. There's fights where you do want to run a shield, or maybe you just want to play it safe for scores. So basically, this is the slot where you have your shield. Most of the times in my groups, I will get guard, so I don't need trap anyway. But it's nice to be a little bit flexible, and have the option of slotting rearming trap for the minor force. So you just have to talk to your healers, talk to your tanks, and like figure out if they can give you guard or not. So yeah, we have empowered board here. If we have to run a shield, then we have Endless Fury here. Execute. I chose this morph because sustain is still kind of an issue, and especially in trash fights, the extra Magicka return is kind of nice. Then we have Haunting Curse here. I know there's some people who do not play with Haunting Curse and still get the same results, so you could run Trap here if you want to. I just like Curse too much to really drop it and not play it in rotation. And then we have Blockade of Fire here. So here's the thing. Maybe you need more Blockades of Storm in your group, so maybe you have to run Maelstrom Lightning Staff. That's okay, especially if you're on console, and for the trash fights, you always want to have a Lightning Staff. So what I do, I just go with Lightning Staff here, and that gives me the option to do heavy attacks, which deal AoE damage. Yeah. And that's really, really nice. So basically for trash fights, I just use my add-on, I swap my gear, and then I have a lightning staff on the back bar for the Blockade of Storms to set enemies off balance and to be able to do heavy attacks. It's really important. But for boss fights, I swap in my my Inferno staff in infused, and that's pretty much it. So if you're on console, you cannot switch your gear all the time. Just go with a lightning staff for all the time. If you're on PC, you have the two staves, just try to swap it all the time. Here's another thing. You might have seen it. It's not really secret, but on Stormcalling you have the overload ability. So what a lot of people do, I think I didn't set it up yet. Yeah, I didn't set it up. So what people do is slot in this. So this ultimate acts like a second bar. What people then do, Dark Magic, Eric Tombs, from the Mage's Guild. Let's go with this. So what people then do is like pre-buff before a boss fight. They cast this, put down the mines, put down the rune trap, put that away, recast everything, and then basically the tanks pull the boss into this area. They get hit by the mines, they get hit by the rune, and that adds some burst damage at the start. If you're on console, you can use the Overload Ultimate on the front bar. It will give you, instead of the 2% max Magicka, it will give you 2% best spell damage, which is cool. If you're on PC, you can just like swap it out, of course, with the dressing room add-on, with this one here, or with Alpha Gear. So yeah, it's basically how it works, and it's actually pretty cool. It's something like a little damage push that people have been using for quite a while, especially like in VMA. It's pretty cool. But anyway, those are the skills. Let's talk about CP. So for the green CP, I just swapped things a little bit around according to the trial. So I have 28 to Wallet right now, 9 to Sprinter, 76 Arcanist, 43 Tenacity, because I rarely do heavy attacks on this setup. 28 Tumbling, 56 Shadow Ward. For the red tree, currently I have 81 Ironclad, 25 in Spell Shield, 43 Hardy, 49 L Defender, 23 into Thick Skinned, 19 Quick Recovery. For the blue tree, I swapped some things around. Credit goes to Liko. My man Liko, he has a pretty sick parse of the first boss in VMOL with 58k single target. That's really, really sick. So CP were calculated by him. So we have 48 into Elfborn, 43 Expert, 37 to Spell Erosion, 37 to Master at Arms, and 75 into Thaumaturge. Yes, we still use the Thaumaturge CP for the Exploiter passive, because on the Sorc, most damage still comes from damage over time effects. Like your Liquid Lightning especially, and also your Blockade and Burning and stuff like that. Those are just like too strong to really like to not use it. The difference is very, very minimal. So like even if you do not have enough champion points to put 75 points into here, it's no big deal. Just try to invest more points into Master at Arms and LA Expert. But it's up to you. We still use the Exploiter passives, like 10% damage increase against off-balance enemies. Keep in mind, the uptime of this debuff, of the off-balance debuff, is only at a maximum of 25% right now. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. I hope this video helped you. If you have any further questions to the Mag Sorc or regarding Mag Sorc in general, just feel free to ask it in the comment section. If you do not want to miss any more ESO content, I recommend to hit the sub button, and I also hope you tune in next time as well. So I hope to see you there. Bye bye.